mean, marriage ends up being a business deal because at the end of a marriage, no matter how long or short it is, somebody owes somebody money.
Long before Goldie Hawn found lasting love with Kurt Russell, she was married to musician Bill Hudson. On paper, they had it all: fame, kids, and that picture-perfect Hollywood glow. But the marriage didn't last. Behind closed doors, one bold request from Goldie changed everything, and Bill walked away. What was it that made him say enough? Let's rewind. A Star is Born. Before she was America's bubbly sweetheart with a signature giggle, Goldie Jean Hawn was just a little girl pirouetting through the quiet streets of Tacoma Park, Maryland. Born on November 21, 1945, into a family as layered as any character she'd ever play. Her mother, Laura Steinhoff, owned both a dance school and a jewelry shop, an unlikely mix of grit and glamour. Her father, Edward Rutledge Hawn, was a band conductor with music in his veins and ancestry steeped in American legacy. He was a direct descendant of Edward Rutledge, the youngest man to sign the Declaration of Independence quite literally. Goldie had history in her blood, but while patriotism and performance ran deep in her lineage, her identity was uniquely her own, a complex fusion of cultures. Her father was Presbyterian of German and English roots, while her mother was Jewish, born to Hungarian immigrants. Though pulled from two worlds, Goldie was raised Jewish, absorbing the traditions, resilience, and spirit of her maternal heritage. Religion, she would later reflect, was less about strict observance and more about identity, culture, and heart. Yet behind the sunny glow of the Hawn household were shadows rarely spoken of. Goldie had a sister, Patty Hawn, who would become a Hollywood publicist, and a brother, Edward Jr., who died in infancy, a tragic loss that was carefully hidden from the girls for years. The grief was real, but quietly tucked away, like a sad story folded between the pages of an otherwise happy book. Dance was Goldie's first language. She began ballet and tap at age 3, her tiny slippers barely brushing the studio floor, already catching the rhythm of the world. By 10, she was performing with the Ballets Russes de Monte Carlo in The Nutcracker, a dream role for any dancer, but especially for a young girl from the suburbs. At school, she was less the budding star and more the quiet, artsy type. At Montgomery Blair High School in Silver Spring, she studied by day and rehearsed by night, slowly building a life in movement. In 1964, she stepped away from American University, where she had briefly studied drama and opened her own ballet school, teaching other young girls to find their center, even as she was still finding hers. That same year, she made her stage debut as Juliet in a production of Romeo and Juliet for the Virginia Shakespeare Festival, an ironic twist for a girl with a comedic destiny. But Goldie was never just one thing. She was drama and humor, beauty and brains all rolled into one. Her big break wasn't planned. It rarely is in showbiz. She appeared in a production of Can-Can at the New York World's Fair and found herself swept up in the vibrant, pulsing nightlife of 1960s New York. Goldie became a go-go dancer, strutting and twirling in clubs from the Peppermint Box in Jersey to underground haunts in the city. She wasn't chasing fame, she was chasing rhythm. By 1966, Goldie packed up her sequins and dreams and moved west, landing a gig dancing at Melodyland Theater across from Disneyland. The shows were musicals like Pal Joey and How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. And while she was just one of many chorus girls, her quirky charm made her stand out. California air suited her. She sparkled in it. Then came television. She landed a part on the short-lived sitcom Good Morning World in 1967, playing the ditzy girlfriend of a radio DJ. The role was stereotypical, yes, all blonde hair, clueless stares, and breathy "oh dears," but Goldie infused it with something that couldn't be taught: timing. She had a knack for innocence laced with sharp wit, and a soft voice that could deliver punchlines with a surgeon's precision. But it was in Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In that Goldie Hawn exploded into the limelight. The sketch comedy show was electric, wild, weird, and wildly successful. And right in the middle of the mayhem was Goldie, a giggling, body-painted force of nature in a bikini, tossing out one-liners between fits of laughter. She played the dumb blonde to perfection, except that behind the eyes was someone very smart, very aware, and in total control of the joke. She was the joke, but it was always her joke. America fell in love with her. and Hollywood came knocking. She transitioned effortlessly into film, first with a blink and you'll miss it bit in the one and only genuine original Family Band, 1968, credited as Goldie Hawn. But her real debut, the moment she ceased being just a TV darling and became a movie star, was Cactus Flower. Cast as Walter Matthau's suicidal fiancée, Goldie stole the show from legends and walked away with the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. Just like that, the girl who once twirled through suburban dance studios became an Oscar winner before turning 25. She followed that with hits like There's a Girl in My Soup and Butterflies Are Free, proving she wasn't a one-hit wonder but a force capable of turning airy roles into deeply human ones. Still funny, still light, but always alive. Goldie Hawn didn't just arrive in Hollywood. She twirled in with sparkles in her hair, a giggle in her throat, and steel in her spine. Goldie Hawn's comedy stardom. After Hawn's Academy Award win, her film career took off like a firework. Brilliant, unpredictable, and impossible to ignore. She parlayed the momentum straight into a string of comedic hits, kicking things off with There's a Girl in My Soup, playing opposite the roguishly charming Peter Sellers. The film capitalized on Goldie's irresistible blend of flirtatious innocence and sly comic timing. She wasn't just the blonde love interest. She sparkled, elevating what could have been a throwaway role into a memorable star turn. Then came Dollar, a quirky caper flick with Warren Beatty, where she played a schoolteacher-turned-bank heist accomplice. Again, Goldie managed to balance charm with shrewdness, always winking at the camera just enough to let you know she was in on the joke. In Butterflies Are Free, 1972, Goldie stretched deeper. Playing Jill, a quirky neighbor who befriends a blind man and helps him fight for independence from his controlling mother, Hawn proved she had emotional heft behind the laughter. She was no longer just the laugh-in giggler. She had range, and she was ready to use it. By the mid-70s, she pivoted into more dramatic territory, starring in The Girl from Petrovka and the Sugarland Express, the latter being the theatrical debut of a then-unknown director named Steven Spielberg. Goldie brought pathos and desperation to the role of a mother trying to regain custody of her child. There was no body paint, no punchlines, just raw emotion and real stakes. The performance earned her serious critical respect. Then came Shampoo, Hal Ashby's satirical deep dive into politics and 1970s Los Angeles. Hawn held her own in a star-studded cast alongside Beatty and Julie Christie, once again showing her knack for choosing projects that blended glamour with social commentary. She was becoming Hollywood's most unpredictable asset. You never quite knew what she'd do next, but she rarely missed. During this whirlwind of a decade, Hawn also dipped back into TV, headlining two specials, Pure Goldie and the Goldie Hawn Special. The latter was more than just a showcase. It was a comeback. After stepping back from the spotlight for 2 years to focus on her marriage and the birth of her son, Goldie returned with full razzle-dazzle. She sang Broadway standards, danced, and traded punchlines with George Burns, Sean Cassidy, John Ritter, then in his Three's Company prime, and even the Harlem Globetrotters. It was audacious, weird, and utterly Goldie. The special was nominated for a Primetime Emmy, and just 4 months later, her big-screen career roared back to life. Enter Foul Play, 1978, a Hitchcockian comedy thriller with Chevy Chase. Goldie played Gloria Mundy, a sweet librarian who stumbles into an assassination plot in San Francisco. The film was a box office smash, and Hawn was hilarious and heartwarming in equal measure. Just when people thought they had her figured out, she reminded them she could carry a film and drive ticket sales. Less known but fascinating was Goldie's brief detour into music. In 1972, she released a country-tinged solo album titled Goldie, with help from none other than Dolly Parton and Buck Owens. It was a curious, charming mix of pop and twang, not groundbreaking but undeniably sincere. AllMusic later described it as a sweetly endearing, country-tinged, middle-of-the-road pop record. It was another reminder. Goldie would try anything once and often do it better than expected. The 1980s opened with flair. She joined forces with Liza Minnelli in the TV special Goldie and Liza Together, a glitzy variety hour nominated for 4 Emmy Awards. These specials weren't just showbiz fluff. They were Goldie reclaiming her narrative on her terms, through song, dance, and controlled chaos. She navigated the next decade with a mix of hits and near misses. The action comedy Bird on a Wire, co-starring Mel Gibson, was panned by critics but still raked in money at the box office. Then came a brief string of early 90s roles that ranged from suspenseful, Deceived, 1991, to soulful, Crisscross, to twistedly iconic. In Death Becomes Her, Hawn played against Meryl Streep and Bruce Willis in a black comedy about vanity, immortality, and revenge. With flaming red hair and killer comedic timing, Hawn went full camp, and audiences loved it. Then, just as her career seemed to be steamrolling forward, Goldie disappeared from screens for 4 years. It wasn't burnout or scandal, it was love and duty. Her mother was battling cancer, and Goldie chose to be by her side. In a town where aging is feared and absence is fatal, her retreat was a radical act of loyalty. When she returned, it wasn't in front of the camera, but behind it. In 1995, she produced the Julia Roberts-Dennis Quaid vehicle Something to Talk About, a sharp romantic drama. Then came her directorial debut, Hope, 1997, a poignant TV film starring Christine Lahti and Gina Malone that showed Goldie had vision beyond acting. But she couldn't stay away from the spotlight for long. In The First Wives Club, Hawn joined forces with Bette Midler and Diane Keaton in what became a box office juggernaut and feminist rallying cry. As Elise Elliott, a washed-up, boozy actress clinging to her youth, Hawn was fearless, funny, tragic, and biting all at once. She, Keaton, and Midler famously belted out "You Don't Own Me," turning a 1963 feminist anthem into a full-throated cinematic mic drop. And just when you thought she might hang up her vocal cords, she popped up again, this time covering A Hard Day's Night on George Martin's 1998 album, In My Life. Goldie Hawn, the go-go dancer from Jersey bars, now riffing on the Beatles with their legendary producer? Why not? By the end of the 90s, Goldie had proven she was more than a giggle or a gimmick. She was a producer, a director, a hitmaker, and a survivor. In an industry obsessed with reinvention, Goldie Hawn did something even harder. She stayed Goldie. Goldie Hawn's relationships. Goldie Hawn is famous for her mesmerizing screen presence and infectious laugh. But beyond the spotlight, her personal life has often played out like a dramatic Hollywood script, full of highs, heartbreaks, and tabloid fodder. Her romantic history, in particular, has been marked by a few unforgettable love stories, starting long before she became America's Golden Girl. Before the glitz of Oscar night and before she graced magazine covers, Goldie's heart belonged to someone whose own star had once glimmered brightly. Gus Triconis. A triple-threat dancer, actor, and budding director, Gus had serious credentials of his own. He played Indio, one of the sharks in the legendary 1961 film West Side Story, and shared dance floors with legends like Debbie Reynolds in The Unsinkable Molly Brown. He even swayed alongside Elvis Presley in the now iconic 1968 NBC comeback special, a moment of rock and roll history immortalized on vintage TV reels. Goldie and Gus shared not just a love story but also a birthday, November 21, which made their union feel written in the stars. They began dating in 1966 before Goldie was a household name. At that point, Gus's resume outshone hers, and Goldie, still years away from stardom, was a giggling dancer auditioning for variety shows. But by the time they tied the knot in 1969, everything was changing. Cactus Flower hit theaters that same year and catapulted Goldie into superstardom, winning her an Academy Award and forever altering the dynamics of their relationship. While Goldie was walking red carpets and redefining on-screen comedy, Gus was struggling to find footing behind the camera. The imbalance became too much. They separated quietly in 1973, with Goldie later confessing to People magazine in 1976 that she had drained her bucket and she wanted to go down like the Indians and meditate. Her fame had exploded, while Gus found himself living in her shadow, a dynamic that would haunt many of Goldie's later relationships. And yet, they didn't rush to divorce because neither of them wanted to remarry. That reasoning held until fate intervened at 30,000 feet. Enter Bill Hudson of the Hudson Brothers, a rising musician with boy-next-door charm and a flair for romantic timing. The two met by chance on a plane in the summer of 1975. It was a serendipitous encounter that turned into a whirlwind romance. Sparks flew and the relationship accelerated like a rom-com montage. By New Year's Eve of that same year, Goldie had filed for divorce from Gus, the very day she got engaged to Bill. It was the kind of dramatic plot twist even Hollywood couldn't script better. But Gus wasn't going quietly. As per California's community property laws, he demanded $75,000 from Goldie. This demand made Goldie hurt because Gus had never supported her a day in his life. Still, she didn't hold back from acknowledging the complexity of their past. I don't blame him for being unemployed. Having me for a wife, it was very hard for him to build up confidence. That comment, half empathetic, half brutally honest, captured the fragility of a love where one person rises while the other flounders. After the settlement, Goldie and Bill married in July 1976, just a month after her divorce from Gus was finalized. The union produced 2 children who would go on to become stars in their own right, Oliver and Kate Hudson. But marital bliss was short-lived. Bill, overwhelmed by Goldie's success and fame, found himself caught in the same trap Gus had been. Their marriage crumbled, and by 1982 he filed for divorce. That same year, Goldie met Kurt Russell while filming Swing Shift, and a new chapter began. This one not sealed with wedding vows, but with decades of partnership that would quietly defy Hollywood odds. As for Gus, he eventually emerged from Goldie's long shadow. Though he never directed a blockbuster, he found a steady groove directing cult B-movies and episodes of popular TV shows like Baywatch, Quantum Leap, and Beauty and the Beast. He also found lasting love with costume designer Barbara Andrews. They married in 1978, had a son named Nicholas in 1981, and remained together until her death in 2012. In the end, Goldie's love life reads like a chronicle of ambition, misalignment, and reinvention. Her early marriages may not have survived the glare of fame, but they were undeniably a part of the woman she became, resilient, reflective, and unwilling to shrink herself for anyone, even those she once loved. Who is Bill Hudson? Bill Hudson's life reads like a script of dizzying highs, public heartbreaks, and the long, messy unraveling of a man caught between the pull of fame and the burden of family history. Born and raised in Portland, Oregon, Hudson was the eldest of 3 boys, part of a rough-and-tumble Catholic household led by a single mother. His father, William Lewis Hudson, didn't exactly win any Father of the Year trophies. He famously walked out on the family when Bill was around 6, muttering something about going out for a pack of cigarettes and never came back. What followed was a childhood under the hard fluorescent glow of welfare offices and the steady resilience of his Italian-American mother, Eleanor Salerno, who juggled raising 3 boys alone with determination and devotion. Bill and his brothers, Brett and Mark, would later form the Hudson Brothers, a pop-rock group with just the right mix of charisma and polyester suits to earn a brief shining moment in the 1970s limelight. They had a few hits, hosted a TV variety show, and became teen idols for a hot second. Bill, the frontman with movie star looks and a toothy Hollywood grin, was clearly the breakout. But underneath the shiny surface was a young man still hungry for validation, still shadowboxing with abandonment. In his bachelor days, Bill floated through the swinging 70s like a page torn from a Tiger Beat magazine. He dated America's sweetheart Karen Carpenter, TV icon Loretta Swit, and Bond girl Jill St. John. But it was in 1975, on a commercial flight of all places, that he met the woman who would alter the course of his life, Goldie Hawn. She was radiant, magnetic, and fresh off an Oscar win. Everything Bill wasn't, but desperately wanted to orbit. Their chemistry was instantaneous, electric even. Within months, they were engaged. For a while, it looked like Bill had won the ultimate lottery: a beautiful wife, 2 gorgeous kids, and a ticket to A-list relevance. But beneath the glamour, things were coming undone. Fame, as it often does, exposed the fault lines. Goldie's star kept soaring, while Bill felt like a footnote in his own family. The 2 divorced, and by 1982, it was finalized. That same year, he wed Laverne and Shirley star Cindy Williams, and the 2 seemed to settle into a quieter domestic life. They had 2 children, Emily and Zachary, but even this chapter came to a close with a divorce in 2000. He later fathered another daughter, Lalania, in 2006 with girlfriend Caroline Graham. But Bill's most public drama wasn't with a lover, it was with his children. For decades, Oliver and Kate Hudson were raised not by Bill, but by Goldie and her longtime partner, Kurt Russell, who they affectionately called Pa. To the world, they were the tight-knit, Hollywood blended family. Goldie, Kurt, and the kids, radiating warmth and laughter on red carpets and Instagram feeds. Bill, meanwhile, became the ghost, absent, unmentioned, a specter in family photos. Then came Father's Day 2015. Oliver posted a pointed Instagram caption, "Happy Abandonment Day." It was a gut punch, raw and public. Bill, silent for years, finally fired back in an interview, accusing Goldie of willfully alienating him from his children. He claimed she poisoned them against him, denying him a place in their lives, even as he tried to remain involved behind the scenes. Whether that version was the full truth or not, it opened a wound the public hadn't seen before. In 2011, he tried to reclaim his narrative with a memoir, Two Versions, The Other Side of Fame and Family, a revealing title if there ever was one. He painted a portrait of himself as misunderstood, sidelined, and deeply wounded. Critics called it defensive, but for Bill, it was likely cathartic, a way to speak when no one had been listening. By 2018, a glimmer of reconciliation surfaced. Oliver revealed on Larry King now that he and Bill had begun speaking again. It was a small step, but after years of estrangement, even that qualified as monumental. Bill Hudson's life isn't neat. It's jagged and complicated, marked by loves that flared fast and died hard, by children who chose other fathers, and by a fame that was always just slightly out of his grasp. But it's also undeniably human. A man raised in abandonment, chasing legacy, making mistakes, and slowly, perhaps trying to repair what's broken. The real reason Goldie Hawn and Bill Hudson divorced. Goldie Hawn has long been hailed as the poster child for free-spirited love in Hollywood. Her decades-long relationship with Kurt Russell is seen by many as the rare kind of romance that thrives without a marriage certificate. But behind the bubbly laugh and boho charm lies a tangled web of broken vows, bitter exes, and estranged children. And when you trace the timeline back to her former husbands, Gus Triconis and Bill Hudson, the fairy tale starts to look more like a messy, unscripted drama. Before she ever locked eyes with Kurt on the set of Swing Shift, Goldie was married to dancer and filmmaker Gus Triconis. It was the late 60s, and Goldie was a rising star, fresh off her Oscar win for Cactus Flower. Gus, by contrast, remained firmly out of the spotlight. According to Triconis, the disparity in fame eventually became too much. He said that as Goldie's popularity exploded, she became increasingly distant and caught up in the Hollywood current. He reportedly told friends that she went off and did all kinds of wild, weird things, and that she began spending time with bigger names like Barbra Streisand and Jack Nicholson. The message was clear. She was moving into a world he no longer belonged in. If her marriage to Triconis ended with quiet disappointment, her next one, to musician Bill Hudson, blew up in public flames. In interviews, he recalled feeling like the luckiest guy on earth on their wedding day. But his joy was short-lived. He claimed that right after the ceremony, Goldie leaned over and whispered a chilling question. "Are you sure we did the right thing?" It was, in his eyes, the first crack in a foundation that never really set. Hudson's version of the marriage was a story of heartbreak and betrayal. He alleged that Goldie had suggested an open marriage, which he reluctantly tried to accept, until it became obvious that she was the only one enjoying that freedom. He accused her of infidelity and said her commitment to the relationship was shallow at best. He even claimed that Goldie's own father had once warned him, saying she needed a different man for each of her moods. "I was consumed with love," Hudson recalled years later, but she had a series of devastating character flaws. He painted himself as a man who wanted a traditional family, while Goldie, according to him, craved liberation, both romantically and professionally. Goldie has rarely spoken about her marriage to Bill in depth, but when she has, the implication has been that her success was too heavy a cross for her husbands to bear. In one interview, she reportedly said that the men she loved and married could not cope with the pressure of having a wife who was more successful than they were. But if there's one thing that Hawn's ex-husbands have in common, it's this. For every man who fell for Goldie Hawn, the dream eventually dissolved. Whether they were overwhelmed by her shine or burned by her independence, they all seemed to struggle with the same thing: loving a woman who refused to be caged by marriage, expectation, or tradition. And maybe that's why Goldie and Kurt have lasted. They never forced their love to fit into a box. As she told Today, marriage was never the goal. "Marriage didn't work for either one of us," she explained. adding that for her and Kurt, love was more about choice than contract. I didn't think we really needed to get married. What marriage ended up being in many ways is big business. For Goldie, love was never meant to be owned, only felt. But for the men left in her wake, that truth might have felt more like loss than liberation. Goldie Hawn's controversies. When it comes to keeping things under wraps, Goldie Hawn has never exactly mastered the art of silence, especially when the topic veers into taboo territory. From eyebrow-raising theories on infidelity to candid disclosures about her health, the Hollywood icon continues to defy convention and expectation with every off-script confession. Back in 2005, Goldie caused a stir during her appearance on The View by boldly defending men who stray from monogamy. Speaking in her signature free-spirited candor, Hawn told the panel that she understood why men cheated, explaining that it was biologically correct in the species. The statement caused an audible gasp from the all-female audience, but Goldie doubled down. She remarked that she never questioned whether her longtime partner, Kurt Russell, had ever been unfaithful, because according to her, asking would only lead to heartache. Goldie reportedly told the panel, "A lot of people cheat and they don't say they're cheating. The idea that you'll be with one person forever sounds beautiful, but the truth is, it's hard." When asked if she and Russell ever had the talk about fidelity, she gave a nonchalant shake of the head and explained, "I just don't ask, it keeps me happy. Otherwise, I'd be miserable all the time." She went on to highlight the differences between men and women when it comes to sexual impulses. Hawn pointed out, women's relationships with men and the way they get turned on are much more personal, more sensitive. Men, on the other hand, they've got testosterone running through them every single day. Imagine walking outside with that hormone surging constantly. It's a challenge. They don't always have control. Unsurprisingly, her remarks provoked a heated reaction. The hosts were visibly rattled, and producers scrambled to bring expert Sue Johansson to counter Goldie's controversial views. But Hawn remained unfazed. Her stance was clear. Biology plays a bigger role than morality when it comes to infidelity. But Goldie's on-air honesty hasn't just been limited to relationship hot takes. She's also opened up about more painful chapters in her life, including the early years of her career when she says she endured relentless harassment as a young dancer in New York. In a sit-down with CNBC during a segment on the Time's Up movement, Hawn made it clear that she's seen it all. "Harassment has been around forever," she said matter-of-factly. "I had some horrible experiences as a young dancer in New York City. I'll top all of them." Though she didn't name names, the implication was chilling. She credited her survival to a tough upbringing and self-assuredness, saying, "I had a strong mom and dad, I had resilience, and most importantly, I knew who I was. So when I was propositioned, my answer was always no, I'll never get a job like that, and I didn't care." Discussing the culture of entitlement in Hollywood, Hawn blamed what she called a narcissistic power complex among men in leadership. They think they're invincible. They believe they can do whatever they want because for so long, no one told them they couldn't. Her daughter, Kate Hudson, has also carried the torch forward, reinforcing the importance of believing women. In one interview, Kate said that coming forward is an act of bravery and emphasized that victims need to know they are supported, not shamed. Then came the 2025 Academy Awards, where Goldie, now 79, made headlines again, but not for the reasons she had hoped. While presenting the award for Best Animated Feature alongside Andrew Garfield, Goldie paused mid-script. Turning to her co-host, she admitted on live television that she couldn't see the teleprompter. "Okay, sweetheart, can you read that? I can't read that," she said before adding with raw vulnerability, "I'm completely blind. I am." As the crowd fell silent, she broke the tension with a half-joke, revealing the culprit: cataracts. It wasn't the first time Goldie had spoken about her condition, but it was certainly the most public and the most unfiltered. Garfield handled the moment with grace, stepping in to read the remaining lines. But backstage, sources said Hawn was mortified that her condition overshadowed the appearance. Goldie is embarrassed that the focus of her Oscar night became her vision issues, an insider revealed. She was trying to be funny, but it landed differently. It wasn't meant to be a moment, just a quick aside. Cataracts, which cloud the normally clear lens of the eye, can severely impact daily activities, especially reading or seeing at night. And for Hawn, whose career has relied on sparkle, expression, and performance. It's a particularly cruel irony. Still, not all was lost that night. Garfield, in a moment of genuine emotion, brought Hawn to tears when he shared how much she had meant to his late mother. "She adored you," he told her, visibly moved. "You made her laugh when she didn't think she could." It was a rare moment where Goldie didn't need to say anything at all, and for once, her silence said more than any wild, unfiltered quote ever could. Do you think Goldie Hawn saying she wanted an open marriage is the main reason her marriage to Bill Hudson crumbled? Or do you think otherwise? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the following video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.